Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I wanted to dive into a really popular topic that I've been asked to talk about, and that is the dopamine detox. And so I'm not only going to be talking about the dopamine detox trend or fad that's going on a lot, but how it factors into healing our limbic system, chronic illness, chronic pain, and how it relates to brain retraining. So, a dopamine detox is also known as a dopamine fast. So, this is going to be a practice that we reduce overstimulation of the brain by limiting exposure to these high reward dopamine boosting activities for just a set period of time. And particularly, this can be really helpful for individuals with neurodivergence or ADHD or a sense of overwhelm because the brains of neurodivergent individuals often seek out more intense stimulation and novelty to compensate for lower baseline dopamine levels or reduced dopamine receptor sensitivities. So, this can often lead to compulsive behaviors like excessive use of social media, gaming, binge watching, binge eating, and that overstimulates the brain and creates this dependency in this constant state of needing higher reactivity to get that reward, constant reward and sensation seeking. So, I wanted to focus especially on why dopamine detox is important for ADHD and neurodivergent individuals because most of the people who find themselves searching dopamine detox are people who have neurodivergence or ADHD, and this is part of what gets them caught in this endless cycle. So, to start, overstimulation and dopamine dysregulation are linked. Neurodivergent brains, in particular, those with ADHD and things that are similar, already struggle with dopamine regulation. So, constant overstimulation from digital media and other dopamine boosting activities can actually worsen attention deficits. It increases impulsivity. It causes decision paralysis, like a frozen type of mode. And we see decreased motivation for the less stimulating but very important tasks like work or self care or cleaning or exercise. When we step away from constant sources of high dopamine stimulation, the brain is actually able to reset to a natural baseline state where it no longer craves that instant gratification that we are all exposed to on a daily basis since the invention of the internet and smartphones and social media. And so this allows individuals to really improve focus on tasks that don't give immediate reward but are necessary for long-term success. And really it's bringing us back a generation to, some of us that do remember what our lives were like before social media when we had actual hobbies and tasks and we got outside and we had more of these long-term goals. This is also important because dopamine seeking behaviors like excessive screen time, snacking, or social media use can turn into compulsive habits and addictive type behaviors. So, reducing these activities can help us break cycles and bring more control over one's impulses, which is especially crucial for people who are finding this constant time suck, this constant addiction to, the end of the week, you get that screen time report and it's like, how did I spend 7 or 8 hours a day on my phone? This, like, what was my life like before the invention of these tools? What would my life be like if I didn't have these tools? And this is going to lead us into this realm of exploring what it's like to live without this obsession. And are we going to have more mental clarity? Can we lead to more emotional regulation? When we reduce external stimulation and we practice mindfulness or calming activities, you give your brain space to regulate your emotions more effectively and have more mental clarity. So, how do we do a dopamine detox? Start small. Number one, if you are doing a first time dopamine detox, completely cutting out all sources of dopamine reward might be too overwhelming. So start by limiting specific activities, like just social media or YouTube or TV for a set period, like maybe just one day, and just notice how that feels. See if you notice any changes in your mood, in your clarity, in your productivity, and then gradually increase time as you adjust. Give yourself breaks in between, and then notice a before and after. You want to identify your high dopamine triggers. Make a list of activities that provide you with instant dopamine hits. So if that's scrolling social media, playing video games, snacking, online shopping, and these are the activities that we want to focus on reducing or eliminating, at least temporarily. Next, we're going to set clear boundaries, create specific time limits or rules around when and how often you engage with these high reward activities. You might want to allow yourself only 30 minutes and set a timer after you complete work tasks. Next, we're going to replace with low dopamine productive activities. So we don't want to just be sitting around staring off into space. We want to engage in activities that provide long-term rewards but lower immediate dopamine response. Things like mindful movement, yoga, stretching, dance, creative work like drawing, coloring, journaling, maybe reading a book. It's enjoyable, but it's not overly stimulating. Spending time outdoors in nature, which also has the added benefit of calming the nervous system, and doing things like breath work, mindfulness, and meditation. Also, the use of visual cues can be super helpful, so using sticky notes or phone alarms to remind you of your detox goals. And we might want to work on practicing body awareness as part of our mindfulness. Staying present can be very challenging when we're new to this. So if we can use techniques like stop, take a breath, observe, and then proceed as we check in with our body and mind during periods where we're brand new to trying this new technique. And then journaling the experience. You can use a typical journal or a calendar where you track how you feel, track your mood, energy level, productivity level, and what challenges you're facing and what worked certain days and didn't work as well on other days. Then we're going to gradually reintroduce the stimuli. After the detox, slowly reintroduce some of the stimulating activities in moderation. Just be mindful of how they affect your focus, mood, and overall well-being. And then you can decide which activities you want to keep and which ones you want to limit or set timers or cut out entirely long-term. So why am I talking about this on a channel where I regularly talk about brain retraining? Dopamine is one of the dose chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, that plays a significant role in brain retraining, rewiring, limbic system healing, and recovery from chronic pain and illness and that fight or flight stress response. When we're doing a dopamine detox within the context of brain retraining, it can help reset our brain's reward and motivation systems, which also supports long-term healing from stress, pain, and inflammation. So the limbic system has, as we all know from other videos, or if it's new, I'll do a general overview. This includes structures in our brain, like our amygdala that moderates our stress response, our hippocampus that moderates our memories, and it plays a critical role in regulating emotions, memory, and how we react to the world around us. Chronic pain and illness are often linked to limbic system dysfunction, so the brain stays stuck in a hyperactive state, continuously signaling danger even when it's not necessary. And this keeps us locked into fight or flight mode and releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Dopamine, on the other hand, is the neurotransmitter associated with reward and motivation, so it also influences our limbic system. When the brain becomes dependent on frequent high dopamine activities, it might prioritize short-term rewards, which leads to an imbalance in our brain's neurotransmitters. It makes it harder for the brain to feel motivated by more long-term, goal-motivated serotonin-boosting activities, and it can get in the way of things that we know are good for us in choosing the shorter term rewards. Even if we know they're not good, they feel better in that moment. If you're dealing with chronic pain or illness, sometimes it feels easier to just do the thing that you know feels good in the moment rather than the long-term reward. So when we're locked into this fight or flight response, the body's automatic reaction to perceived threat, it activates the sympathetic nervous system to help us react quickly to danger. But if the brain is constantly flooded with stress signals, like in chronic illness or chronic stress situations, the limbic system is locked in hypervigilance and it perceives everything as a threat. So In this state of chronic stress, the brain is just going to be wired to seek out quick dopamine hits from external sources like screen time, sugar, or distractions to feel better temporarily. We can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, so we just want to feel good where we are. But this reliance on external stimuli to trigger quick dopamine hits prevents deeper emotional and physical healing needed for long-term nervous system shifts to parasympathetic. When we do a dopamine detox, we're going to help regulate this fight or flight response. We lower the overstimulation of the limbic system, and that actually helps us shift easier into parasympathetic rest, digestion, and healing responses. Let's talk for a minute about chronic pain. Chronic pain is not just a physical issue, but often involves a neural component where the brain misinterprets signals as pain even after the acute phase of injury has healed. And this is part of what's known as central sensitization, where the brain stays on high alert and amplifies pain signals. Dopamine plays a role in pain perception and reward circuitry. So in those with chronic pain, the dopamine reward system can become altered. It makes us more sensitive to pain stimuli while also more dependent on external sources of dopamine to feel better. And this imbalance can make it harder to break the cycle of chronic pain. When we do a dopamine detox, the brain can start to reset its reward system. Combining this with brain retraining techniques, limbic system shifts, mindfulness, it's going to allow our brain to focus on creating new neural pathways that interpret sensory input differently and reduce the pain signals sent from body to brain. In essence, with brain retraining, we are using neuroplasticity to change how the brain responds to stimuli, promoting healing by signaling safety to the limbic system and encouraging new patterns of thoughts and behavior. If we're stuck in a constant dopamine seeking cycle, we are literally blocking new ways of being because we are so caught up in the addictive behaviors like doom scrolling for 7 hours a day. So a dopamine detox is going to complement our brain retraining efforts. We are going to reduce external stimulation and increase our ability to engage with these new brain retraining tools like meditation and nature and mindfulness and movement that encourage long-term healing. Long-term goals also boost serotonin, which is really important for our mood. And without this constant pull of distractions, the brain is more receptive to doing these activities that are longer-term reward activities. When the brain is not overstimulated by constant dopamine hits, it's also better able to create and form new neural connections. We get stuck in a state of chronic stress that can sap our motivation, especially when the brain is conditioned to seek out these short-term rewards. And so a dopamine detox resets our brain's reward system and makes it easier to stay motivated by long-term goals. We also open up space to look for the smaller, beautiful things in our life every day because the loud noise of the constant dopamine hits can make it harder for us to see the smaller things to be grateful for, the smaller joys and victories that we have, because it kind of sets the bar very high for what we're seeking out. So by reducing overstimulation, this dopamine detox is going to help signal safety to our body. It's going to reduce limbic hyperactivity, and it's going to actually bring us into parasympathetic state, which is where we need to be for deep healing and digestion and restoring balance and removing inflammation from our bodies. So I think what I would focus on the most here are different ways to integrate dopamine detox with brain retraining. So I think that mindful movement and somatics are a great thing to focus on during a dopamine detox. These calming activities like yoga, tai chi, walking in nature, gentle stretching, calm our limbic system and support this parasympathetic activation. We use visualizations that focus on feeling safe and healthy and gratitude. And during brain retraining, we remind ourselves that healing is happening, that we can visualize success. And what I always want to point out here is in our ideal lives, when we're visualizing this healed version of ourselves, most of us don't visualize, yeah, I'm feeling great, my body's healing, I feel my energy's back, and I'm scrolling on my phone. That's my visualization, right? Like we visualize that we're hiking, we're running, we're hanging out with friends, we're doing art. So In order to live this ideal version of our lives, we need to remove the things that are sucking all of our energy and attention. The other thing is that during a detox, incorporate more time to rest. When we're on our phone doom scrolling until 1 in the morning, we're not allowing ourselves to even have the time to rest. So using this as an opportunity to actually get that deep rest and to have time in nature. Going out into the natural world without overstimulation is going to be such a healing experience for us as well. In closing, I want to talk about how a dopamine detox not only affects dopamine, but it actually influences other neurotransmitters and hormones in the brain and body. And these shifts in our neurochemistry and biochemistry are important for overall mental and physical health. First is serotonin, the mood stabilizer. Serotonin is responsible for mood regulation, emotional balance, and feelings of well-being. It also plays a key role in sleep, appetite, and digestion. When dopamine-seeking behaviors are reduced, serotonin production naturally increases because the brain is no longer focused on instant rewards. The balance between dopamine and serotonin is critical. Excessive dopamine stimulation can suppress serotonin, leading to mood imbalances, depression, anxiety, irritability. Detoxing the dopamine activities allows the brain to rebalance these neurotransmitters. The next one is norepinephrine, the stress hormone. So norepinephrine is often associated with fight or flight response. It regulates our attention, focus, and hyperarousal. It's activated in response to stress, and it can heighten our alertness and anxiety. But when we are overstimulated and dopamine-seeking behaviors are rampant, our norepinephrine is too elevated as well. So when we decrease dopamine-seeking behaviors and reduce our overall stress and the input we're receiving, we can also decrease our norepinephrine levels. This allows the brain and body to calm, and it gives us a break from constant high stimulation. The nervous system is relaxed, and it reduces this chronic activation of fight or flight. We also look at cortisol, often known as the stress hormone. It's the primary hormone released in response to perceived threats. While it is essential in regular amounts for energy and alertness, chronically elevated cortisol levels are harmful. It contributes to anxiety, inflammation, insomnia, and weight gain. So a dopamine detox is going to reduce the cycle of chronic stress, which is often exacerbated by these high dopamine activities, constant stimulation. And so reducing these dopamine-driven stress cycles allows cortisol to normalize, which then can improve sleep, reduce inflammation, and restore our ability to handle stress in a balanced way. The next one is the endorphins. Endorphins are pain relievers and also mood enhancers. They are a natural painkiller that is responsible for feelings of pleasure, pain relief, and well-being. They get released during activities like exercise and laughter, and sometimes during meditation. When we engage in low dopamine, high reward activities like exercise, mindfulness, and social connection, we often get an endorphin release without overstimulating dopamine. So we get a more balanced and natural feeling of well-being. That pleasure is derived from wholesome mood-enhancing behaviors, not instant dopamine fixes. So we might see some improved pain tolerance and reducing on the body's reliance on artificial or unhealthy ways of boosting mood. Next would be GABA. GABA is the calming neurotransmitter. It's an inhibitory neurotransmitter that calms brain activity. When we cut out the overstimulation, we actually return to this more balanced state. So it allows the GABA to work more effectively. And this inhibits excessive brain activity and reduces our stress. We also see a play here with the oxytocin, the love hormone. It's the love or bonding hormone. It plays a key role in social bonding, emotional regulation, trust, and connection. We see it released during social interaction, physical touch, moments of connection. When we shift our focus away from screen-based interactions or instant dopamine hits, we engage more in meaningful in-person social activities. So the increased oxytocin from real-world interactions is going to improve emotional resilience, give us better relationships, and give us this better feeling of actual real-world connection. So we're going to get this enhanced social bonding, and the oxytocin is going to help counteract the stress hormone cortisol, further promoting relaxation and recovery. Next is melatonin. Melatonin is the hormone responsible for regulating our sleep and wake cycles. It increases in the evening as the light exposure decreases, and it signals our body to prepare for sleep. Constant screen and digital media exposure, which are major dopamine hits, can disrupt our melatonin production by keeping the brain alert and engaged late into the night via artificial light. So a dopamine detox, reducing screen time and overstimulation, especially in the evenings, is going to help melatonin production. This is going to give us better quality sleep, improve our circadian rhythm, and give us more of a restored and restful sleep at night. And the last one I want to talk about is acetylcholine. This is the attention enhancer, so to speak. Acetylcholine is involved in memory, attention, and learning. It's a key player with cognitive function. It helps with our brain to focus on tasks and recall information. When the brain's overloaded with high dopamine activities, it becomes difficult to maintain focus. We get brain fog, we feel more overwhelmed, and sometimes our response is to shut down and just scroll more because we feel like we can't cope with the world, when in fact the answer is to remove ourselves more from this sense of overwhelm that we're getting sucked into. So a dopamine detox is going to rebalance acetylcholine levels as well and allow the brain to improve focus, attention, and cognitive performance. And this is especially helpful for people with ADHD or neurodivergence or kids that have this screen time addiction. It's going to enhance our brain's ability to prioritize important tasks and improve working memory. So as you can see, a dopamine detox is far-reaching beyond just the immediate dopamine effects. We're going to see a shift into some parasympathetic activation, enhanced healing and recovery, less inflammation, better moods, better relationships, and better overall balance with neurotransmitters. So I hope this was helpful information. If you have any questions on a digital detox or dopamine resetting or brain retraining, please post in the comments below. I love to interact and answer any questions you may have. And I hope you have an amazing day full of healing.